What's going on, everybody? Johnny here, bringing you my very first film review. Super stoked that you can join me today. And you know, we're dealing with a weird time in the world right now. It's 2020 and we are dealing with the coronavirus pandemic going on right now. So everybody's trying to fight the boredom, trying to figure out what to do. And right now I decided it's a great time to get into doing something that I'm very passionate about, and that is I want to do film reviews. So I decided to start off with a film that I've given a lot of thought about which one was the first one I wanted to actually do, and it is considered one of the greatest, if not the greatest, horror film that has ever been made. And I'll give you a second to think about what that film is. If you guessed The Exorcist, then you are correct. The Exorcist came out in 1973, written by William Blatty and directed by William Friedkin. The Exorcist definitely goes down as one of the, and I consider it the greatest horror film of all time, just because there was nothing like it before, and there's been many films trying to copy it after. So The Exorcist was groundbreaking for horror, and there were just films back in the days that were just kind of simple. I mean, not too technical, especially in the horror genre. You had like your creature features and stuff like that, but when it came to The Exorcist, it dabbled in a whole realm of supernatural possession and demonic entities, which is pretty cool because I don't think anybody expected it. I mean, when people at theaters and when they're watching it in theaters, I just read that there was people screaming and crying, and you know, the lines were like wrapped around the whole entire theater just with people wanting to see what the hell The Exorcist is, and they got a bang for their buck because they did not expect what was going to happen in those films. And it's pretty cool. I mean, I love it. I thrive on horror. I'm a huge horror fan, so when I saw The Exorcist as a kid, it just blew my fucking mind. I mean, I could not stop thinking about it, nightmares about it, everything. So like The Exorcist takes place first of all in like in Iraq, and there's like an expedition going on, or like a digging. They're doing like digging in Iraq, and somebody finds a little statue of, I am assuming the demonic entity Pazuzu. So when one of the main priests that we see later on gets introduced to this and sees the little item, he is already held like compelled way, like he's freaking out on what he's seeing. And so there's a lot of stuff that just goes on to build up a great story. And when you see him talking to another fellow priest in an office in Iraq, there's a clock that's swinging on like a pendulum type of deal, and there's little subtle things like the clock stops as they're having a deep conversation about good and evil and the battle between like heaven and hell and everything. And when the clock stops, it just sets the tone for like creepiness, and you start to feel the vibes. This movie gives a lot of like creepy vibes, which I think is great because it makes you feel uneasy. It gives you that discomforting feeling throughout the whole film. And this film was one of those films that just did it. I mean, from the get-go. I mean, right from the beginning, a few minutes in, you start to feel uneasy. There's little creepy moments throughout the film that you just see that are subtle, but they will stay with you throughout the whole film because you can tell that the evil is following somewhere, so to say. And so then we are introduced to Regan, which is played by Linda Blair. So Regan's character is, of course, the biggest role in this, besides the priest as well. But Regan is playing with a Ouija board. And when Regan plays with the Ouija board, that is when basically all hell breaks loose. That is when she is actually introduced to the entity that is lying within it, who tries to befriend her, who goes by the name of Captain Howdy, but which is just the entity trying to, like I said, befriend her, but he is not exactly what he seems. He is, you know, an evil spirit that is just trying to be invited into her so that it could essentially attach to her soul. So that's basically what happens to Regan within, you know, our beginning of seeing her. And then we also are followed by Father Karras, and Father Karras is dealing with a lot of stuff himself. He's conflicted with his whole religious aspects. He doesn't even know if he wants to even continue being a priest. His mother's dying in the hospital, and just the story just builds up very well, and like getting to know these characters in a short time, but you start to really care for them. And we see Regan going through like some medical testing because they don't understand why she's changing, but obviously it's because of the entity that's within her, who Pazuzu's possessing her, and trying to become her, and trying to just release himself as like the demon that he is. And then we also get Damien Karras, who starts to get involved with the case, and just we start to unravel everything. And just throughout the whole film, it's very good storytelling. You start to see the conflict between Regan and her family, and also there's a murder involved, and I don't want to get too much into it, but like you start to see that there's things that just build up throughout the whole scenario, where at the end it creates this giant chaos, pretty much like a chaos sphere of just everything that comes together. But like I said, the visuals are amazing when Regan starts getting possessed, and you start to see her physically change. The special effects makeup were phenomenal in the film. I mean, she just gets more grotesque and grotesque, and the voice changes, and even like there's a part where she starts speaking backwards in many voices, and it sounds like she's speaking in tongues. And yeah, when they start to, the conflict between between Regan, aka Pazuzu, who's possessed her, and the priest, when they start to do their exorcism on her, just the whole shit is just insane. The music is phenomenal. Just when you see her levitate off the bed, and then they're like, the power of Christ compels you, and you just see her face just with wide eyes and everything. I mean, there's nothing scarier than that shit. And that's why I think to this day, that's why The Exorcist just is never going to be touched in any form. I mean, nobody's going to come close to it, because you got the best, one of the best scores. You got some of the greatest cinematography in that film. Great practical special effects that make you feel weird. I mean, the vomit scene too, where it's just like the green pea soup. I mean, it is so good. Everything, the little jump scares that happen are really good too, but I know that the jump scares weren't even a big thing back then. But like I said, the subtle horror stuff, I mean, when she starts speaking like Father Karras' mother, and you start to get the psychological warfare of the exorcism, it just makes for like a great horror psychological thriller too. I mean, it's epic. It's up there. It makes you feel uneasy. It does what it was intended to do, and that's why I gotta say Exorcism is probably 9 out of 10, if not 10 out of 10, one of the greatest films that has ever been made in any genre. And if you guys really enjoyed this little review that I gave, I would say give it a like, give me a subscribe. I'm going to do more film reviews, different genres, not just horror. I'm going to dabble back in horror all the time though, but I'm going to do dark dramas, not so much comedies. I mean, I'll do some comedies, but I'm not huge on them. But yeah, thank you guys. Hope you have a wonderful day, and stay safe out there. Peace out, guys.